Hey, how's it going? And today I'm excited to bring you this tutorial about fluid simulations in LightWave 2019. This is relying on a plugin called Deep Rising FX. You can go to the website. Sometimes it's possible to do a group buy-in through Liberty 3D and get this for maybe about $100 less. And if that happens, I'd say it's definitely worth it. The program is actively under development and there's a few bugs maybe here and there, but I'll show you what my experience has been with it and how to try to avoid some of the little glitches that I've experienced so far. But overall, I think it's a very promising program for fluid simulation. To get started, there's a couple things that we got to do just to get going. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Modeler and I'm just going to create a small little ground plane. So I'm just going to click and drag there. I'll give it a little bit of height, not much, just something like that. And then I'll just hit enter and then I'll hit F2 to center it. I'll go ahead and save it as an object. You're going to need a LightWave object at some point toward the end of this process. So we'll just save object as, and I'm just going to call this cube 9. I've been through this a few times already. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go over here and send object to layout. And there it is. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go into the surface editor and we're going to come over here to preset, open preset shelf. We're going to go to built-in, and we're going to go to glass because glass looks the most like water. And we'll just double click clear and go yes. So we're going to need a surface to apply to our simulation, and this is what we need to do right now. It's better to do it now than to do it later. So then once you've got your glass surface here, you're just going to right click and go down to save and save library. And I'm just going to save this to my desktop and I'll just call it water. Okay, just like that, and go save. Okay, so far what we've done is we've created a LightWave object, we've created a surface, and then the last thing I would suggest to do is to go on your desktop here and just make 3 folders called one cache, one mesh, and one render. And then we're basically done with this, so we can just close out of this, just close all, save, and go out of that, and then just switch back into layout and close this. And we don't need this right now, so we'll just come here and clear selected. Okay, so LightWave object, make your surface, and create 3 folders. That's just some preparation that you need to get done. It's better to have it done right now. So we're going to go to Deep Rising Effects, and we're going to go to, these are ordered in the kind of in your order of operations as they are, because you're going to go domain, solvers, and meshing. So the first one is domain, and this program has improved since the previous versions. Before you used to have to create these, now they're already, a lot of this is already created for you on starting. So we've got our cache, we've got our mesh sequence, and what we're going to need is something for the simulation to go into, a box. We're going to go to model, we're going to go to geometry, we're just going to click cube and go okay. And there it is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save that object. So just go save current object. And we're just going to call this cube 10 and go save. Okay. And then once that's saved, we're going to go to Modeler and hopefully it should pop up there. And then all we got to do here is go to details and we're going to come down here to flip and flip it. Let me change my perspective here a little bit. And then we're going to come to mesh repair and go triangulate polys. If you don't do this, you're going to get an error later on down the road. And then we just simply save the object, synchronize, and we're just going to switch back to layout, and there is our object. Now, all we've got to do here, if we want, we can go to camera, and we could go to camera view, because everything's seen through the camera, right? So we want to probably just adjust our position here so we can see the simulation a little bit better. Maybe like that. Okay, now we've got the container for our simulation. Now we just need to add it to the domain. So we just come here to make sure we're on the object, cube 10, and go add selected item, rigid object, and there it pops up there. And if you want to see the collision particles, just click that if you want to see them for whatever reason. Now I'm just going to leave all these on the default setting. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and save the object again and save current object, and I'm just going to overwrite just so that I've got the most current one, and then I'll just resample the mesh, and then we're done with that. Then the only other thing we got to do now is add an emitter, so we simply come up here to edit, add entity, and we go emitter, and we go OK. Now this is a huge emitter. The bigger your emitter is, the bigger your simulation is going to be. So for our purposes, I'm just going to leave this at 120 frames, but you can make it 300 frames, probably be a little more fun to watch, but I'm just showing you how to get started real kind of quick. So the only thing we need to do here is just reposition this, because this is our emitter. I'm just turning the scroll wheel here, and I'm just turning it like a hose would be going into a box. And then that's way too big. So I'm just going to make sure I'm on the emitter here, and I'm going to change the radius just 0.1. And that's going to be really small, but it'll make the simulation run really fast. And that's what I want. I don't want to be here all day watching it work. And then I'm just going to leave all of these the same. So now we're basically set. All we've got to do now is do our simulation, render it out, and bring it back in. So we're going to go to our cache, I guess it's cache. And I'm just going to clear the memory and go OK. Then we're going to save this to that file that we put on our desktop. So I'll go there to our cache and go OK. And this is going to be a BGO file right there. And that's all set up, right? So we're basically all set to render out our simulation now. So we're at least 50% done. So what I'll do is I'll come back up here to DeepFX Rising, and then I'm going to go down to the next step in our workflow, which is the solver. And actually, I'm going to leave all these settings the same. The developer of the software has done a tutorial that's more in depth on these settings, and I'm not going to go over all that, but the defaults will work for now. All we're going to do is we're just leaving everything the same right now. And then, believe it or not, we just click simulate, and there it goes. This is very gratifying to watch. I think this is really, really great. Actually, since you don't have a very big emitter, it actually renders out pretty quick. And then you go, done. Okay? All you've got to do now is bring it back in. So you've rendered out your simulation now into a cache. Now you got to bring it back in. So you just come here to load. You go to file name, you go to where you stored your folder, and we had it on a desktop. We just click there, go open, and then you click load. And you don't really see anything happen, but if you hit play, there is your simulation going. All we've got to do here is put a mesh on this thing. So we're done with our solver for now, so we're just going to close that. And then we're just going to go to our mesh, meshing. This file format name is so funny. I actually think that's what you'd call somebody who's being difficult. We're going to put a mesh on this, and if you want to see what the mesh would look like, you just hit preview mesh, and it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like, that frame. What we're going to do is we're going to go to, see, it's kind of bumpy right now, so we're going to add a smoothing filter to it. So we're going to go to edit, add filter, go to median, click there, go OK. We'll double click on this, and we're going to change the iterations to 2 and continue. And then there is that. And then we just want to go to our directory. We want to go back to desktop here. We're going to render this out to our mesh, and we go OK. And as far as I know, all we have to do is hit export mesh sequence. And it kind of does the same thing. So it's basically baking out this mesh. Once this is done, you're 80% of the way done, and all you've got to do is add a surface on your mesh and bring it back in and sequence it all together. So now that we're done here, so basically you could save the scene at this point and you're done because you don't need any of this stuff anymore. I'm just going to close this out. I'm going to just clear the scene, but normally I might save it because we've got our mesh baked out now. So we go clear scene, and we're done there. We cleared out our scene, and once we have our mesh rendered out, it's like a part 2, and it's really the easiest part of the process that's left. I'm guessing that because the program has so much data that depending on your system, it may become unstable. One of my suggestions is to get yourself positioned early on rather than later trying to adjust things. So to start, we're going to go into load and load object, and we're going to load that ground plane that we had earlier, and there it is. So what I'm saying is go ahead and get your camera in position now versus trying to move it once the mesh has been loaded in. So anyway, you're going to need a LightWave object in order to use the mesh sequencer. So here we are. Let's go into camera view here, and let's just get ourselves in position so I don't have to mess around with this later. So I know it's a fairly small simulation, so I'm just going to move in pretty close. I think it's, maybe let's see, pitch down here a little bit more, something like that. And then I'll just move in a little tiny bit more. I'm assuming that as the program gets more developed that these problems, some of these problems will go away. So anyway, but I'm just imagining that when you're dealing with so much vast amount of data that the program is likely to become unstable. So I think I want to be a little bit closer to that there. So I'm going to come in even closer here and come down a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to be happy there. Okay, so then this part is really straightforward. You just come onto properties. We're on the ground plane object, and we'll go to the object replacement, and we'll go to the mesh sequencer, and we'll go to properties here. The surface name is whatever's on the surface editor, and it's usually default, so by default it's default. And then the surface library is that texture we made earlier, which is over here, the water lib, and we go okay. And then the file is our mesh sequence that we rendered out. So we go to desktop mesh, we just click the first one and go open, and then we click load, and then we click continue. And if you hit play, you may or may not see anything. It's just so much data coming in. You can let it loop around a couple times. You still might not see anything. See there, you can see the simulation, but it may not play, like I said, because of so much data. My other suggestion is to use the track controls and not to drag this playhead around so much. And if we go into VPR, we can probably get a look at what we've got. Then the next thing I would say is just to go ahead and render it out. We'd come into render properties here, and we go to output, and we just would navigate to our folder that I had on the desktop here. I already got some folders in there. Hold on a second. Let me delete these. Okay. And come back in here and make sure I'm on that folder here. Desktop, render, select folder. I just want to show you the process all the way through so you can see that it actually works. And then you go render scene. And then it just renders out. And you've got yourself some really, I think, some pretty good looking simulations. My only observation about the program is it does seem like it has the potential to crash here and there, and I'm just assuming that those are some bugs that are being looked at and addressed. Once you kind of figure out kind of how to get around those with kind of the things that I've told you, I think it has tremendous potential. I really give a lot of kudos to the developer for all the work he's doing on it. When you do have a problem, I do notice that he's very responsive to getting back to you. So I'm very excited about using this program for fluid simulations. And so I hope that this has been of some help to you. Take care and have a great day, and I will talk to you next time.